Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm taking a preview look at a prototype copy of the newest game in the Simply Solo line from designer Scott Almes and publisher Buttone Games. This is Lands of Amazement. Lands of Amazement is an 18-card solo-only sort of tile-laying polyomino-spatial puzzle of a game in which you are sort of building these different parks of polyomino shapes in order to create these attractions, adding those attractions into sort of a deck or a pile of cards, a reserve pile of cards that you're then ultimately going to use to build an even larger sort of polyomino puzzle in the final phase of the game. Disclaimer, as a preview of this game, I was given advance access to this game by the publisher, but with that said, I will do my best, as always, to give you my own honest opinion on the game. With that said, let's head down to the table to see how this one plays, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up a game of Lands of Amazement, we're going to start by taking these 3 double-sided gold cards, giving those a shuffle and sort of flipping them over as we shuffle to mix them up very nicely. And from this set of 3 cards, we are going to be choosing 1 card and 1 side at random. Now, while I'm here doing this, I do want to show you that this card is sort of split into 2 sections. The portfolio section up here at the top and the Megapark section down here at the bottom. And that's because this game is basically going to play out over 2 phases, the portfolio phase and the Megapark phase. The portfolio phase will play out over a series of 4 rounds, followed by 1 round or 1 final Megapark phase. And it's actually going to work such that these portfolio phase rounds are going to sort of be a setup for us to prepare and plan for this final Megapark phase, because all scoring and sort of end game goal stuff is going to be taking place during that Megapark phase, but I'll show how all of that works as we get into gameplay later. So sticking that out onto the table where we can see it, I will then take the rest of the cards, which are the park cards, give those a good shuffle, and then I'm going to deal 4 of those cards into what's going to be basically my deck, and I'll place those over here, leaving some space for a discard pile. And then 1 additional card will be the start of what's called our reserve pile, and that reserve card is going to sort of also act as our round tracker. So I'm going to stick that here at the top of that goal card, showing now that it is round 1. And I'll explain what that means in just a second. The rest of the cards we're going to deal out as evenly as possible into 3 piles. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1 extra I'll just stick here in the center. And then we're going to take those cards and flip the whole pile over so that it is face up like that, and like that. And with that, we are all set up for gameplay. So Lands of Amazement, as I sort of mentioned already, is going to play out basically over a series of 5 rounds, or 4 rounds plus end game. And those 4 rounds being this portfolio phase that's tracked here on this card. And finally, that last piece, or the end game piece of the game, is this Megapark phase. And basically, I'm going to try and build up this reserve pile so that at the end of the game, I can use the symbols printed on the bottom of these cards to build this sort of shape that's shown here in my Megapark section. And we're trying to get a perfect park, meaning we're trying to score 0 points. In this game, points are actually going to be negative. They're sort of penalty points. And we are going to, in our final round or final phase, when we're building that Megapark, for every space that should have an icon as shown in this shape that does not have an icon, I will be scoring 2 points. For every icon that I do have that is in what should be an empty space in this picture, I will be scoring 1 point. And then finally, you'll see there's a selection of different colors here. So I've got 4 yellow, 2 blue, 2 red, a green, and a purple. I need to have at least those icons in my final Megapark. And for each one of those colored icons that I do not have, I will also score 1 point. Now, in the portfolio phase, I am going to be playing out cards from my deck into what are called parks, basically sets of cards, using the icons at the bottom of those cards to meet the goals not on my Megapark, but at the top left of each of these 3 sort of attractions that are currently showing, or the stacks that are currently showing on my table. So for example, here for Relaxation Junction, I need to build a shape that is sort of a 3 line and then another line of 3 offset by 1 space. And I'm allowed to have more symbols in my park than are shown there. But if I'm able to match that shape exactly, I will then also be able to do whatever it says here in that area. And then once I've done that and chosen to trigger this if I qualified to do so, this card as well as the cards in the park that triggered that shape will get placed into my discard pile. And that's going to be important because at the end of the round, any parks that I haven't used will go back into the discard pile as well. And then from that discard pile, I must save 1 card, and I can save as many cards as I want to into my reserve pile, remembering that the cards in the reserve pile will be the cards I have available to me in order to make that Megapark shape. So I'm trying to aim to get as many of these matching colors in there as possible so I have those available to me, plus sort of thinking about shapes that might fit together to make that Megapark. But the sort of caveat is, during that round, I can only put cards into my reserve pile if they have at least 1 shape on that card that matches a shape in the current round. So right now I can only save cards into the reserve if they have at least 1 yellow icon on them. So looking at these 3, the only one that would work then is this one right here. As far as placement rules, I'll sort of explain things as I go, but I just want to point out these cards, when I deal them out into my parks, when they've been dealt out, I can choose to either start a new park or place it into a park that already exists. When placing into a park, I'm not really committing myself to anything other than the fact that that card will be in that park. Meaning, as I continue to add cards to that park, I can rearrange those cards and reorder those cards to better make that shape. I can always rotate things, I can overlap things, but each card in that park must give or must include at least one of their symbols in the shape that I'm building. I can never sort of partially cover things, and I can only ever use 1 set of shapes on a particular card. I could never make use of both of them, even if I managed to connect them both to the shape. So that's basically all there is for the rules, but let me still go ahead and get into gameplay so you can see how all of that works out. And I will sort of make note of other small little things here and there along the way. So taking a look at the 3 parks, I've got Relaxation Junction, which does need that sort of offset pattern of 3 and 3. Says if I can match it perfectly, I'm going to discard the topmost reserve card and then put this card directly into the reserves, which is a good way to avoid needing to match the colored symbols for a particular round. The speed alley attraction here is 2 rows of 3 with a single at the bottom. It says if I can match exactly, add this card to an existing park. So I don't start a new park, but I can put this into something to help me potentially get another goal done. And over here, Ultimate Entertainment says if I can match that sort of cross shape, I get to start a new park with this card. So this is only useful if I can get that done sort of early in a round so that I can then potentially get things done with that new park. Because remember, at the end of the round, everything in a park will be cleared to the discard pile. So let's go ahead and turn over our first card, and you can see I've got this sort of T-shaped cross for hot dogs and this double here of sort of games. So food and games doesn't work with that, but let's see what we can build with this. With this sort of T-shape, I'm seeing that speed alley could be a nice thing to have, but also this Ultimate Entertainment could be a nice thing to have. And I don't need to commit a park to a specific goal, I just need to commit a park to being a specific park. So let's go ahead and turn over the next card and see what happens. All right, now, we've got a sort of T-shape. That doesn't really work too well with this shape for any of those things, although it could, because if I did that, you will see there's the 3 and the 3 matching for that card right there. And it says discard the topmost reserve card and then reserve this card, which means this comes back, and I would save that. Lots of food and lots of sort of plushies. I only need 1 of each of those, so that's not a big deal right now, but it does mean that I could get things going. It might also be worth starting a new park, because if I can get this one, it would then join into this park, and I could potentially get something else done. For example, using that L and this L to maybe make that shape. So I'm going to do that, and we'll see how it plays out. Remembering I only have 2 more cards in the deck for right now. That doesn't help me at all. Or does it? Let's see. Yeah, I don't like that shape. This little diagonally one could potentially get turned into something. Let's stick that with those, because I don't see it helping with this too much. All right, let's see what we get. Let's hope for something good. I flip this over. Okay. It's not what I was looking for with another one of those, but it's actually pretty perfect. Because if I do that and that, I am going to make this shape exactly. Now, it does say start a new park with this card, which is going to be useless right now. Is there anything else I can do with it? Not really. Just trying to see if I can make that happen. No, not really. All right, so we are going to do that. Putting that there with that. I think I did the opposite a minute ago, but it's the same shape. So we are finishing that one. It says I can start a new park with this card, which isn't going to mean anything because I don't have any more cards to add it, and this card alone is not going to do anything. So we are just going to put that in there, and that means those were used to do that. So they go in there as well. And I do have the opportunity to try and make one of those other things, but with these 2 cards, nothing is possible. Yeah, nothing. So those are going to get discarded. That is the end of the first round. And I can save cards that have yellow features in them. So not this one, not this one, not this one. I could save either of these 2. And I don't love this sort of 2 with a space here as far as working on these things. So I am going to reserve that one. But it's early enough that I'd like to have a lot of shapes to get more of these cards into my working pile. So I'm going to hold on to that. That is the end of the first round. So we'll slide that down to round 2. The deck gets shuffled. And we go ahead and get started with the next round. So turning over a card. It's got that T again, which works with that. But I don't think I have any 3 acrosses. But anyway, we haven't started anything. The first card doesn't really mean anything. Turning over another one. Again, there's that 4, which really does potentially work here. Oh, what does the new one say? Discard the topmost reserve card and reserve this card. Not great for right now, but extra yellow is going to be important. We need lots of yellow in there. So maybe. Although this is blue and this round is blue, so we could just put that in there anyway. Let's see what comes out next. Hold on a minute. If I do that, and I do that, that already does that. Yeah, let's do that. Why not? All right, so those go, which means this gets discarded, I guess. No, because I know that that's the one we just put in there, and I don't want to lose the yellow stuff. Yeah, but why not? And that goes directly into there. And the next one we've got says, choose a card from the completed park and use it to start a new park. Okay. Interesting. All right, let's see what comes out next. 2 L's. And we've got one more card, which could do something possibly. Yeah, if we do that, is the same 4 shape as that. And it says I could choose a card from this park and use it to start a new park, but I don't have any more cards coming out, so there's nothing to add to it, so that's fine, but we do finish that stack. So those are done. And I can only save things that have blues on them, and right now, none of those have blues on them. And since there are no cards, let me double check that. Purple, green, green, red, yellow, purple, red, purple, yellow, purple. because there are no cards that match the current round, I don't have to put in, I physically can't put anything into the reserve, which might be dangerous for us because that means I don't have a lot of stuff going into the final round yet. But the next two rounds give us lots of options as far as green and red and purple and yellow. And I know the card I just put in there was a blue one. So I'm going to push that to round 3. Give these a good shuffle. Now the problem with doing that was now I only have 2 goals that I'm working towards, but that's fine. We'll do what we can. Turning over our first card. And that could be working towards either of them realistically, so let's see what the next card shows me. All right. We've got a sort of L, we've got a 2 hot dog thing. And realistically, none of that really does what I want it to. Yeah, not really. Unless I take one of these. Hold on. Like that and like that. Does do that. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so that makes that shape. I could discard this top card and reserve this card, but I want the blue and yellows that are on there, so I'm actually just going to put that in there. Next one, Cosmic Journey says add this card to an existing park. All right, so those get discarded. That does nothing on its own, so let's see what the next thing is that comes out. It's that horrible square shape again. I really want that 3 row because that helps particularly with that one. But realistically, if I had another 2 that goes there, I could do that. So I kind of want to put them in the same park and see what happens. Because I only have 2 more cards coming out. Ah, but there's that L shape. But it's an L shape with 2 things in the way. Because, like, I can do that. And I can do that. But if I do that, this doesn't do anything. I'm going to put this here and cross my fingers that I get another thing that'll work. Because then I can get that, and I can add it to this, and that might do something. Let's see. Crossing my fingers, I get a double. I do. Okay, good. So, add to an existing park. Can I make that happen? If I do that, no, because that's going to cover over anything I do. But if I do, I don't think that's possible. Yeah, that will do it, right? No. Slide over 1. That does it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Like that means that is completed. But that's the wrong thing for me. I was hoping to use that 3 with this thing, but that doesn't work. But anyway, now I forget what the one was that I did. So I am going to do this. This does get added here. Is there any way I can do either of those? Ooh, there might be. That's the wrong direction. I want this L to be this L, but this L can't go on top of that yellow one. That's one of the interesting things about this game is that how things stack is unique because things are on cards and the rest of the card covers things up. It's not as simple as just being able to place a polyomino in this game, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do any of those things. Like I could do that to start the 6, but then I don't have that bottom piece. And that, oh, you know what? That works. Now you can see how I can overshoot things. I do have a 1, 2, 3, which does finish that. I do have an extra piece there, which means I don't get to activate the ability, but I do complete that shape because there is a 1, 2, 3, and that is a 1, 2, 3. So that will go there. Those will go there. Round 3 means greens and reds. So I can save any of these cards that I choose to. And I need to make sure I have enough red. I don't know what the first card is. And I'm pretty sure the last one had blue and yellow. So I want to save this one because I need lots of yellows and reds for sure. And I want to make sure I have at least one green and one purple. But I want to keep these two for that shape. So for right now, I'm going to place in, one of these two. I think this one. All right, so we'll do that. That's it for round 3, sliding down to round 4. One thing to keep in mind for the Megapark phase at the end, I must use every card that's in the reserve. So I have to use at least one icon of every card that I've placed in there. So I do have to be a little bit careful when I'm building my reserve that I'm not taking cards that are just gonna mess me up in that final Megapark phase, but we'll see how we've done. All right, then, nothing yet, but that is a 3. And I think I'm gonna wait for that T shape. So this is gonna be a separate park, and this will get added to an existing park if I can match it perfectly. There's no T there though. Yeah, we're gonna put those together. Wow, okay, now I'm worried. Let's add that as a separate park. I still don't have a T. I'm really concerning myself here. I'm going to keep that card in this park and we'll see what happens. All right, there's a T. So I need to, yeah, I can do it that way. Like that. Here is my 3, 3, 1. There is one showing at least from each of the 3 cards, so I get that perfectly. This gets added to an existing park. And I need to make a cross with a plus. I'm going to throw it in there and we'll see what happens. I should probably be paying more attention when I'm dropping cards into things, but let's see what we can do. Can I make that shape yet? I've got a T that way. I've got a 3 that way, so that's 4 crossed. And then there's no way for me to make a square if I do it that way. So let's do that. Hold on. There's no way to do that. Unless I, like that. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is the shape. It says shuffle all the stacks together, redeal the same number. Well, guess what? There's only one stack, so even if I shuffle and redeal it, it's not going to do anything. So I am just going to put all of those into the discard pile. All right, we've got this one left. We'll see if we can get it with one more card. I think so. Oh, no, that's the wrong direction, isn't it? But if I can do, yeah, there we go. 2 up, then 1, 2, 3 with 1 in the middle does match that shape. So we do finish that. We do finish these. That will not be used. I'm going to set that off to the side. Then from these, I can only put things in that have purples and yellows. All right, so these 4 cards have no purple or yellow, so they're out of the game for sure. We do currently have 4 cards in here. I don't really remember the breakdown of things. I'd like to put 2 more in there, at least, to give myself some options. I'm going to do these 2, because they're both purple and yellow. And yellow is big. But I've already got lots of yellow options, so I want to throw this purple and red in case I use that red and yellow that I put in earlier. No, I'm scared that I don't have green. Let's do that. And we're going to put those to the side and let's see what we've got. So again, the shape I'm trying to make is this here, the labyrinthine park. Get lost in the fun. I got to make this shape as closely as perfect as possible. If any of these dark squares are missing on my card, I will get 2 points. If any empty spaces are filled in on my card, I will get 1 point. And if I'm missing any of these colors in my final shape, I will get 1 point for each of those. So let's see what I can do. And I might show some of this on camera and then sort of fast forward some things on camera. I'm not sure yet how long this is going to take me to piece together, so I want to make sure that you see everything. I do need to make sure I use that blue. I do need to make sure I use 2 of these reds somewhere. So probably, if I do that, yeah, but there's no way that I'm gonna get a red thing on top of that, is there? Hold on. If I do yellow, no, that'll never work. I need to use that blue somewhere, and it's a problem that it's this direction. If it was the other direction, that wouldn't be a big deal. But I could just do it as a 3 across, like that. And make sure to cover it so that, oh, but there's a green, hold on. That works. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, blank, 1, 2. That is that left side. So I've got all the greens and the blues that I need. I need 1 purple, 2 reds, and 4 yellows. Well, the 4 yellows would be perfect there, except that there's no way for me to do that. Unless I can figure out a way to make that work. Like that. This red is going to be a real bit of a problem. Because it's got to go under something, because it doesn't touch the edge of the card at all. But like that. I need 2 reds though, and that's only 1 red. So blue's not going to work there unless I do something else with it. That's going to be an extra piece. There's no other card with a red except that one over there, and I'm using the green. So maybe red doesn't go there. Maybe red goes up top. Except it can't. But it could go... No, I need 3 over there. If I put that like that, it can't go over the green though. Yeah, you know what? I think I have to do what I was doing before. That goes there. And that sticks out like that. The problem is I got 3 more cards that I have to use. And I don't see how that's going to happen. What's the other thing on this card? 2 purple. Okay, hold on. If I put that... but then the red disappears. Then the red disappears. What if I do that? But the red's going to cover up that yellow. Grrr. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, maybe. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 1 more. It's 5. But I don't have a 2 that goes there. This purple does, but then everything else is gone. Can I slide this under? I can. All right. Huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This needs to go over 1 more. And this needs to go over 1 more, which is a problem now because but that's an under. What else do I need? I need 3 over here, which isn't going to happen with that for sure. Could do that. I'm missing that space still. Like that. Like that. There's no way for me to get that. And that's going to score a lot of points that I don't want because these 2 greens at the top are not part of that plan. And this one here is missing 1. And I'm missing 1 red. So if I scored this right now, I'd get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. Which is still a success because you failed a 6 or higher. But instead of making you watch me do more of this, I'm going to completely reorganize things, come back and show you what I've managed to do. But right now, looking at this, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, then 3, then 4, then 4, but that's a blank. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 more 5 for missing. No, plus 3 more yellows I'm missing. This is a complete failure. All right, let me see what I can do. All right, I think that I've pretty much managed to do it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the bottom, starting from the same spot. 1, 2, 3. Then moving up from the second spot, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then moving up here, 1, 2, 3, 4. The only thing I have extra is this little yellow piece right here. Then I need 4 yellows. I have at least 4 yellows. I need at least 1 green. I've got 4. I've got 2 red here, and I've got 2 blue here. So I've got all of the colors that I needed. The only thing I have extra is this one right here. Otherwise, it matches perfectly. Means I'm finishing with a score of 1. And then just showing you up close on camera the scoring here. I did not manage Visionary, but with a score of 1, I did get an imaginative designer grade, which is pretty awesome, especially on camera, as this game is quite hard. So that's basically all there is to show you for gameplay. Again, this is a prototype copy, as this is now on Kickstarter as I'm recording this video. So things are always subject to change. I don't know if this is final design or not. Let me just show you all of the other cards up close so you can see more of the different shapes. So Labyrinthine Park is the one that you saw me just do. Here we've got Dreamland Coasters, Enchantment Isle, the Aqua Center, Extreme, and a Mega Drop Park. I have to say the artwork in this game is beautiful. First off, this sort of Art Deco style, old school sort of amusement park theming on the back of these is cool, but the artwork on these cards, the different attractions here, Halloween Land, Blast to the Past, Kids Coasters. You saw a lot of this up close while we were playing, but I just want to show them off to you. Medieval Manor, Third Dimension, Speed Alley, Cosmic Journey, Extreme Altitude, Relaxation Junction, Tip Top Heights, Downfall, Centrafun, Wild Heart Eco Tours, Ultimate Entertainment, Prospect Park. Really, really, really beautiful visual design or artwork on each of these cards. The iconography on everything is very, very easy to understand, or at least easy to differentiate. The only one that I'm not completely sure about, but now reading the instructions to see what it was, this yellow icon wasn't immediately obvious to me, but that is a ride. It's a roller coaster. See the wheels and the seats going up a slope. Now that I know what it's supposed to be, it makes sense, but that was the only one that didn't immediately pop out to me. Looking at it, again, big fan of the artwork in this game. Taking a look at the wallet. Again, this is a prototype. There is no wallet made yet, but as always, I can show you the wallet in a picture on the screen right there. And I have to say, I'm sort of mixed mind about this one. The gold on white definitely brings out that sort of Art Deco, old style, sort of Great Gatsby almost style look. And I do really enjoy the font that they've used for this wallet. But again, the coloring, just being a plain white wallet with this gold on it, it does look classy, but it's not immediately catching. Except, like I said, I do like the stylized font that's been used for this. The A is almost like a curve at the top of a roller coaster, which is kind of cool. Anyway, I do enjoy what I'm seeing with the wallet, but this isn't going to be one of my favorites. That said, white wallets from Buttone are fairly rare, so it's nice to have a different color in the collection with this one for sure. But otherwise, that's basically all I can say about the components. Maybe back up top and I'll let you know what I think about this game itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. This is now another new game in this Simply Solo line from Scott Almes and Buttone, and I have to say, honestly, this line for me has been a bit of a mixed bag in a weird kind of a way. And what I mean by that is I've really enjoyed every game that's come out in this series, and I really appreciate what Scott Almes is doing here, making these very sort of simple, straightforward, puzzly kind of solo games in this line. And again, I have enjoyed all of them up to this point, but for the most part, none of them have really had that sort of lasting power that pulls me back into them. And as they keep coming out, I sort of keep playing the new one for a long time and then moving on to the next one and never really going back. There are a couple along the way, like Fishing Lessons and A Nice Cuppa, and these kind of spatially puzzly ones that I do really enjoy and I have gone back to. But for the most part, this series has been one that I enjoy, but that doesn't stick around too much for me. But that's beyond the point. Let's talk about this new one. And I started off this way because this new one is an interesting one for me, because I think that Lands of Amazement could be the best design yet in this series. I'm really impressed with what's been done with this sort of polyomino tile laying mechanism that you've seen in many games before this, but not necessarily in this way. But at the same time, while I can appreciate this game as potentially the best design in this series so far, it also isn't necessarily the best design for me in this series so far. So let me sort of explain what I mean. First off, at its heart, this game is a polyomino tile laying game where you are using cards with actually two different polyomino shapes on each card, laying them on top of each other in order to build sort of specific shapes to match goals that you're trying to achieve. Now, the interesting thing about this game is sort of multi-level, and the first thing is that each card has two polyominoes, but you can only make use of one of those. The next sort of twist is that because these shapes are printed in the bottom corner of the card, you have to sort of deal with the card itself as you're laying these cards down. And what I mean by that is generally a polyomino game uses just the polyomino shape, and they fit very nicely sort of within each other, and sort of you can put them inside the holes of other polyominoes to sort of efficiently pack them into shapes. But the problem here is that because of the fact that they're sort of on the corner of the card, the physical size of the card becomes a restriction about how you can place things. And you can never, well, almost never, fill in those holes of the polyominoes because there is no sort of actual physical gap inside that shape. So when you try and overlay a piece to fill in that hole, this hole is not really a hole, it's a card, and which means it's covering up the stuff that you're putting it on top of. So it really makes for an interesting twist on this sort of fitting together these shapes due to the fact that it's not just a shape that you're laying down, but an actual physical card with its own sort of space and size restrictions. And it does make for a nice new sort of puzzle that you have to deal with as you try and build these shapes. But more than that, the way that this game works is each turn or each round, there are going to be 4 rounds in the first sort of phase of the game. And the first sort of phase in the game is really not the game, if that makes any sense. Of course it is the game because you are playing and you are making decisions, and it does sort of tie into where the game is going. But it's almost as if the first 4 rounds of this game are really like a preparation for the actual game itself, which is sort of building your park at the end of the game. And what I mean by that is, for those first 4 rounds, you start with a very small deck of cards and several stacks, 3 stacks of cards that match the cards that are in your deck, or at least the same kind of cards that are in your deck. But you're using those as the goal shape that you're trying to achieve. And when you do achieve that shape by laying down the cards from your deck, that card then becomes a part of your deck, and potentially at the end of your round, potentially part of this sort of reserve deck, which is a separate deck of cards that will ultimately be the cards that you're using to build that final shape in the final phase of the game when you are building your mega park. So what that means is you're trying to, as you're turning cards over from your deck, build the shapes that match the card that's showing at the top of each of those 3 stacks. And when you're laying them out either in the same park that you've already started building or starting a new park. And that's going to be important because every card in the park, here's an extra twist to that sort of polyomino tile laying piece, every card that's in that park must be used in the shape that you're building. So that means that each card that you've put into that park needs to sort of be considered as part of that park, needs to be considered as sort of how you're going to use that shape to build those goal shapes, because once you've committed a card to a set of cards, that card must stay in there. And you can reorganize them as much as you want to, so long as those cards stay within that sort of grouping or set of cards. And what that means is you can't just get rid of a card by tossing it to the side, by sticking it in a park and forgetting about it. At least one of the icons on that card must show up in the shape that you're building. And then there's another nice little wrinkle in that you don't have to be perfect during this first sort of 4 rounds of the game, this sort of preparation phase of the game, so long as the shape that you are building, or that the goal that you're trying to build, is within the shape that you've created. So you can actually have multiple icons in addition to the goal that you're trying to achieve. But if you manage to make the exact shape as shown on the card, then you have this sort of additional potential ability that you can trigger on that goal card when you build that shape. And that might mean that you can place that goal card directly into a park, or place that goal card directly as a new park. And what that means is it sort of adds to your efficiency of that round, because you are only going to have 4 rounds to get as many cards out of those stacks as possible into your deck, to then into your reserves, to then use in the final round or final phase of the game. So the more efficiently you can do that, the better, because if you don't have that ability that pushes it into a park, it goes into your discard. And then it won't come back into your deck until the following round. So the more stuff you can accomplish within a single round, the more options you have for planning for the next round, or more importantly, for planning for that final phase when you are building your Megapark. So that's sort of the planning phase. You've got these 4 rounds of playing cards to try and make these goals, to finish those cards so they can get added into your deck, into that cycle of cards that's spinning through. But then there's the next piece of transferring those cards from your deck, from your discard pile, into your reserves. And the way that works is at the end of every round, you're going to look at the sort of card that you're using for that specific game. And on that card, it's going to show specific colored symbols for each round. And the only cards that you can add into your reserves are cards that have symbols matching those of the ones shown on that card for the round that you're currently playing in. And that's going to be super important, because all of those symbols that are shown in those 4 rounds must be included in your final park. So it's not just about making the sort of final shape of your final park. It's also about including all of the right sort of pieces in your final park. So at the end of every round, you're going to be required to place 1 card into your reserves, assuming that you have at least 1 card that matches the icons on that card. And then you can place as many as you want to. Now, this is a tricky thing, because you want to make sure you have enough cards to build the shape that you're trying to build in the final phase. You want to make sure you have all of the icons by the end of the game required that need to be in your physical park, or your final mega park at the end of the game, because if you don't, you lose points, or you gain negative points. But at the same time, you're going to continue following that rule that every card you've got in there has to be used for at least a single icon in the final park. So the more cards you have in there, ultimately the more difficult it might become to build the shape that you need to build, because in the final park, you can't have any extra stuff, or you will get points, again, penalty points, for having done so. You want to make exactly the shape that you need at the end of the game. And remember, these are whole cards that you're piling on top. So every card you pile has the potential problem of covering up things that you don't want to cover up as you lay these things on top of each other. So there's this really important sort of long-term strategical piece to the game, where you really want to think about the cards that you're putting into that reserve, so that when you get to that final round, you have all of the things you need, but none of the things you don't need, if that makes sense. And it really elevates that puzzle, that crunchiness of fitting all of this stuff together, and that really does add to the difficulty of the game. And this is ultimately where the game stops working for me. And I don't mean the game stops working. I still think it's a wonderful design, but for me, this sort of long-term strategic planning is something that I've never really enjoyed that much in games. As far as my long-term strategies in games, I usually like to say, well, here's the goal that I want to do. And now along the way, these are the things that I'm going to do, trying my best to work towards that. And in a game like this, that kind of works. I can win the game, means I can get less than 6 points. I should point out quickly here, you get 2 points for every sort of actual physical thing that's missing from the shape that you've built in your Megapark. You get 1 point for every additional piece that shouldn't be in your Megapark that is on your sort of tableau. And you get 1 point for every missing type of icon that was supposed to be in the park that you don't have. So as long as you get less than 6 points, the penalty points, you do win the game. And I tend to win the game, but getting the better scores really does take a lot of foresight and a lot of future planning. And I just don't have it in me to think about things beyond something like, well, I need these colors, so let's make sure I've got enough of those colors to cover myself moving forward. And if you watch my playthrough, you can see that. But I have the feeling that somebody who's really good at this sort of card counting, future planning kind of gameplay would do really, really well at this game and would enjoy this game a whole lot more than I do, because they can think about, well, I've got this shape and I've got this shape, so I need to have a shape that looks like this that goes there, and I need to make sure this icon is on that shape and this icon is on that shape, so I have enough of those to overlay to finish at the end. And there's a lot of thinking that could go on in this game, and I just don't feel the desire to do it. So while I do enjoy the turn-by-turn tile-laying polyomino spatial puzzle piece of this game, and I do enjoy using what I've got at the end of this game to do my best to make that Megapark, and which means I do enjoy the overall feeling of the game, the overall mechanism of the game. It does hurt my brain because I'm not willing to put in as much effort into that long-term strategic plan as I should to do well in this game. And for that reason, this game is sort of a mix for me. I really appreciate everything that it's doing. I really enjoy a lot of the new twists that it's put onto a polyomino tile-laying game. But for someone like me who's not a super strategic thinker, it makes it a little bit less exciting for me to get to the table. Now that said, if you are a chess player, if you are somebody who likes to think several turns ahead and sort of think about this sort of plan as it builds out, I think this game may actually be the best game in this series or in this Simply Solo line. It is definitely one of the most clever designs, at least in my opinion, seeing so many other polyomino kind of tile laying games that I have played before. So big thumbs up from me on the design, middling thumbs from me on how it feels for me to play, but in any case, it is a very interesting game, and I do think that there are a lot of you out there who would really, really enjoy this game. So I do sort of push you to check the link down below in the description to head over to the Kickstarter campaign. It is live as this video is going up, so definitely check it out if this feels like something you might be interested in. I hope that this video was helpful for you. As always, I do ask that if you did like this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.